On this episode of the Naturist Living Show, the Naturist Symbol.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bare Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bareoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode 134 of the Naturist Living Show. This show is brought to you 100% close-free, as always. I'm not just, it's funny line to say, but we make an effort. When I record this, I always try to be close-free unless it's not possible, if I'm doing an interview in a place where it's not allowed. But I will make an effort, whether I'm recording in winter or summer, to be genuine and true to what I'm talking about. And when we're working on this, when we edit this, we take our clothes off and we do it close free for you. Even though you can't see it, you just have to take my word for it. But today it's easy. If you're catching up, I am recording this currently in the summer of 2021, and it's just a gorgeous day here at the park. I've brought my equipment to the trailer, and so if you hear noises in the background, it's people having a great time. And this episode is also brought to you through the generous support of Mark M., Matthew M., Johannes F., or Johannes, if you because you have the umlauts on your last name, so I'm guessing you are from Germany perhaps, or Austria. Jean-Marc P., I'm pronouncing it with French accent because it's spelled in a French way. And Alejandro A. I'm guessing that's the way it should be pronounced as well. So my apologies if I've butchered any of your names. I'm doing it based on the way it's written from what we get for Patreon. So thank you to you for supporting us, for everyone else who's supporting the show through very generous donations every month. And if you're not and you'd like to, please go to Patreon/Naturist Living Show. And there'll be a link in the show notes, and we'd really appreciate your support as well. So since the fall of 2020, you may have noticed, if you're busy online, a number of people putting up a very similar looking symbol. It's a sort of a very stylized yellow sun and waves, and it's known as the Naturist Symbol. It has its own Twitter account. And there are people who are very active in promoting this naturist symbol. And I thought it'd be interesting to get the story behind it. Now, it was kind of a collaborative effort. There was a few people who organized it, but a lot of people proposed symbols, and votes were taken by the community that was participating. But one person that I've seen very open and very positive online, and who I've always wanted to talk to as well, is Linda Weber, and she's a big promoter of the Naturist Symbol. So I thought I would give her a call so that we could chat about what the symbol is about, how it came about, what does it mean, and why it's important. So welcome, Linda Weber. You've been involved in naturism for a little bit now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement and your role, and just briefly who you are?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say it is a real honor to be asked to be a guest on the show. I've been a big fan of the Naturist Living Show for quite a while, and just listening to your voice is such a joy, and it just makes me want to listen to them every time they come out. So I'm an honor. Now.
Thank you. That's very flattering. I appreciate that. I'm glad. It's always nice to hear that you're doing something that others appreciate, even though initially I was really just doing it for myself. But I do try to do stuff which will be of interest to the listener. So thank you for that.
I've learned so much, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that listen to it, and they've gained so much information. So keep doing it, and I appreciate the offer to get a chance to tell my story too.
Oh, thank you. So, who are you?
Well, I have been a naturist since my teens, actually. Well, first of all, I would say I was a nudist.
Hmm.
I would come home, I was in my teens, and I would just shuck off my clothes. I did not feel good in them. I just hated having to, the whole wearing the clothes and being in with the style when I was going to school, and I just never liked it. I can tell you it was not a big draw for my parents. They really didn't like me walking around the house nude, but I still did it because I felt better. And one of the things that I felt better about is when your body's changing, that's when you feel the most um, nervous. You don't know what's going on. You feel so awkward. But being nude, I could see the changes and I could feel them. And I wasn't ashamed of the changes like typical teens were. So I think I had the advantage of knowing that my body was changing, but not being ashamed of it because I could see the changes and knew that they were natural and not something to be ashamed of or something that I needed to hide behind clothes. So I think that really, really helped me. And then I was more of a house nudist for the longest time until I discovered a nude beach with my husband and started going there. And unfortunately, about 30 years ago, they started to get some interest from textiles. They started, the gawkers, the stalkers. And we were way down at the end of the beach. This is Bates Beach in Santa Barbara County.
Mm.
We had such a problem, and the police would be called, and you would, end up having to, put your clothes on. Um, my husband was in law enforcement at the time and couldn't risk having a ticket, so we just simply stopped going, and I became a house nudist. And that was fine for me because I believed in that, and that worked. But then I went on the big nude boat and found an entire boat full of people
Hmm.
that were nude, and it was fabulous. And then I met some folks from ANR, American Association for Nude Recreation.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, I had seen it, the offers about it. And I said, well, what can it really do for me? I'm already a nudist, so you're not going to be talking me into anything. And I found out there was all kinds of benefits. And one of the things was the fact that the group had worked tirelessly with the city and the local council for getting our portion of the nude beach back where they wouldn't, go and ticket people. And I was so excited to be a part of that. I could go back to my beach. And so I became more of a social nudist. And that's kind of what started me on my path to where I am today.
And your involvement in Anner is more than just appreciation now, right?
Absolutely. Once I joined ANR, I was in contact. Well, actually, I think it was serendipitous because I was sat at my table on the big nude boat with two people that were actually from my region, the ANR West region, um, Andy Walden and Trina Saavedra. And so I think it was meant for me to be because I could talk to them, and in talking to them and hearing their stories, that's what really got me into it. And then I talked extensively with Andy Walden about being on the board, writing for the bulletin, maybe coming out of being out of the house and actually being a force on social media. So that's what really started that was the impetus for my start.
Oh, that's good. And you are very active on social media in a fantastic way. So thank you for that, because we need more people to, of course, be open and promoting it. And I know, because we've also covered it, so the listeners will know that for a woman on social media, it can be particularly hard because of the trolls, right?
Absolutely. And I appreciate those kind words because as an introvert, the last thing I wanted to do was be out on social media. I was not on any sort of social media before this. And so I thought long and hard because I realized I did not see a lot of women on there.
Hmm.
There are some great women leaders on there, but I didn't really see myself. And I thought, gosh, if I'm going to encourage women to be, nudists or naturists, I have to walk the talk. And so I talked to my husband and I talked to a few people and I said, can I do this? And I thought, how can I not do this? I can't stand, being on the sidelines and waiting for someone else to do something.
No,
So
that's
I
good.
decided to open that.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of women who are, if they're on social media as naturists, are just in the background and they're not subscribed, they're not posting, and I can't blame them. I mean, it can get really ugly. You need to have a thick skin. Last year we had some comedians. We do stand up comics at Bear Oaks every year, and it's a woman who organizes it, so it tends to be women that come and perform. And one woman posted that she was coming up, and she was so freaked out by some of the comments she said she saw that she wasn't going to come because she thought those people that were commenting were the people who would be here. And I said, no, 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 no. The trolls online would never have the nerve to show up and say anything to your face. They need anonymity. They are not naturists. But I can see how if you don't have somebody reassuring you, you could get really turned off.
I agree, and so I don't blame women for not wanting to come forward, because I deal with it every day, and you have to be pretty thick-skinned, and I'm not quite there yet. I can't say that sometimes it doesn't bother me, but for the most part, I have such fabulous followers that I need to feed into their what they're saying and their positivity. I'm contacted a lot by people in my direct messages that ask me personal questions about, hey, I'd really like to get my wife in this or my partner. I've seen your posts, can you help? I've actually done Zoom conferences with people where the women could actually see me online and see I'm a real person. I'm just like them. And I have had some success that has really buoyed me. And I think that, that's what drives me is the fact that I know that I am making a difference. But, sometimes I agree. It gets difficult on social media.
Yes, but the reason that I wanted to talk to you today is because this episode is about the Naturist Symbol, and you have been very active in promoting the Naturist Symbol. So have many others, but I've seen you since the early days of the symbol coming out, as well as the hashtag I am the face of naturism. I'm the face of naturism or nudism. Which one do you
I'm
use?
the face of
Of
naturism.
naturism. You do use naturism, even though you're
Yes.
part of ANR, which tends to use nudism. So let's start with, because I mean there'll be a link in the show notes and it'll be in the image of the show, but why don't you start by describing the Naturist Symbol because it's audio only?
Oh, the Naturist symbol is a sun. It's an outline of a sun with seven rays, which represent these seven continents. And then it has a clever three line, either waves or if it looks like bare buns. So it depending on if you're in the know, you'll know what it looks like. And if not, it looks like a very nice symbol that everybody could embrace.
That's good. So it doesn't have any actual nudity, and it's not. Um, it's stylized. So it's blue and yellow as the colors. So it's a very nice graphic design. Actually, it's well balanced. Um, so why do you think this is important to have, and why are you supporting it?
There was like the contest last year that came out on Twitter. And I thought, wow, there's all these people submitting these great ideas. And I thought I want to be a part of it. So, I voted and I thought, why not? Why not have a symbol that for nudists or naturists to kind of recognize each other? I thought what a unifying thing to happen. So that's how I kind of became part of it.
So, but was there a need for a symbol? Because some people will say that there were already other symbols out there.
There are, but I don't know if they have been so universally embraced. I'm seeing some real traction with this because I think it resonates with people. It's simple. It's one of those things that they can actually have on their car and they don't have to worry about, someone pointing out and saying, you're a nudist, really? Because, I don't, really ascribe to that sort of philosophy. It's non-threatening. And so if people aren't in the know, it just looks like a nice graphic.
That's true. So is it about being secretive, like a secret handshake?
I don't know if it's so much being secretive as being something that people recognize. When you recognize it, you feel like you're part of a group. It's like, wow, if I saw somebody on the other side of the street that had this on their car, I would, run across 7 lanes of traffic to go talk to them because I recognize that symbol. And so it's one of those things that it's like, wow, I know you now. And, I could be walking among a lot of nudists or naturists. I don't know that. I see that symbol and I'm thinking, hey, they may be in the know. I'm going to talk to them.
And so, do you want to describe a little bit the process of how this happened and how we got to this symbol being selected?
It was started by Bjor of Team Naturist. And he thought, this would be neat to have a symbol where people could recognize each other. And the genesis was more like we didn't have, these big groups of people that could go out and do anything. And so it was like, how do I find other people except online? And maybe they don't live next to me. So he thought if we had a symbol that people could recognize as they're walking down the beach, if they see somebody with that towel or if it's that mug, it'd be like, hey, you're one of me. You're ascribed to the same philosophy I do. I'd like to have a conversation with you and, maybe sit with you or maybe, gain a new friend. And so it was kind of a conversation starter or a non-threatening way to find other people that ascribe to the same philosophy.
So, from a timing standpoint, because sometimes people listen to these episodes, well, we've been doing the show for 12 years now, and people are still listening to the episode number 1 every month. So, what was the timing of when this selection and voting happened?
The contest ran from August of 2020 to October of 2020 when they finally came to the final decision of who the winner is. So it went through several alliterations of, we're going to narrow this down. Do you want this one, the voting. So it was some rigorous voting. And so in October was when the actual winner that Jacob Braun, Silly Bear, he was the winner of the contest. It was his submission.
And people were voting on a website?
It actually was on Twitter and I believe Facebook, but the majority of the voting actually happened on Twitter.
Oh, okay. So one of the criticism I've heard is that people felt it happened very quickly and they didn't feel involved. They only heard about it afterwards. What are your thoughts about that?
I have heard that too, and I guess there could be a way if you weren't on social media all the time because things happen so fast. Sometimes I even miss things. I kind of came into it right at the beginning, and so I kept up with it, knowing that if I'm going to vote, I obviously need to see this every week and see what's going on. There probably was a portion of people that didn't feel like they got their vote in, and I feel bad for that, but we did what we did with the people there, and I think Ivan did a great job with what he had.
So you're an Anna representative, but you weren't voting on behalf of Anna, right? So the other criticism I've heard is that people, the organizers did not involve any organizations like Anna in the vote.
Yes, I've heard that. Although I think that uh, the actual symbol should be a standalone. It should stand by itself. And if the organizations or federations would like to join with it, I think that's great. But if you had one organization, because I have heard some criticism about not being asked, but if you ask one federation, you're going to have to ask them all. And if one embraces it, does that mean that we have to exclude the other one? So I think what's great is it's a standalone symbol. And if the organizations and federations would like to embrace it, that's their option. And I think that would actually be a great opportunity if they did so.
Are any organizations embracing it so far?
I don't have any knowledge of that directly. I know that I've seen several people using it in ANR in their regions with things. And so it's not actually ANR sanctioned at this point, but I know that some people personally are using it. Some of the groups are using it. Some clubs are using it. And so it is getting recognized. And I think part of it is also they wanted to see if the symbol was going to be something more than a flash in the pan, or if it would be something that would be universally accepted or recognized. And I think that's what they're kind of waiting on.
So, and closely tied to your promotion of this, the symbol, is your hashtag, I am the face of naturism. What's the genesis of that?
When I first became active on social media, I thought I wanted to do something with a hashtag that said, I'm the face of naturism, because I wanted people to know this is what we look like. Do you want to know what a naturist or a nudist looks like? I'm one of them. Any one of us can say, I am the face of naturism. And so I wanted to say, if you want to know what they look like you. I could be your neighbor. I could go to your church. My kids probably go to your school. We shop at the same stores. So we are not, something to be feared, or, we look just like you. We just subscribe to a nude philosophy. And I wanted to try to bridge that gap, because there is a lot of misinformation about what a nudist or a naturist is.
There sure is. And you used the term "I'm the face of naturism" as opposed to nudism, but you're involved with ANR, which tends to prefer nudism. Why did you pick naturism?
Those terms will always, I think, be something that nudists and naturists will never really agree on.
Yes.
But I felt like I was a nudist when I first started. Because I was in my home and I did very little social. But then as I started going out, I started, doing a lot of traveling, doing a lot of social nudity. So then I thought I more um, ascribed to being a naturist, because I'm out in nature. I have a healthy respect for nature. I do a lot of charity work with environmental groups. So I figured I'm more of a naturist. So I think it's just semantics, but I said sometimes that does cause a little bit of problems with NR, because they are new recreation, but I really don't see a lot of difference. But I think naturism means that you're more connected to nature, and more harmonious, and more out in being a social, type person.
Yes, and of course you probably know, because you've listened to the show, that I agree with you that I prefer the term naturist, because I want to take the emphasis off the nudity, because it's not actually that important once you're into it, although it's an important tool, right? I'm sure you've heard me say that it's an important tool for us to accept who we are, and live in a more natural way and respect others. And in Europe, that's the term. And in North America, there's a strange divide because of ANR and the Nature Society adopting different terms. So it is an odd thing. People can mean the same thing using either words.
I agree. Basically, it's just semantics, and that's why I go back and forth. But like I said, I now prefer the name naturist, because I think it's more global, and I think it encompasses more of what I stand for.
So how do you foresee, other than yourself, do you imagine others using "I'm the face of naturism" as a hashtag, and how?
I've actually seen it explode. I was actually how it started with the getting connected with the symbol is the symbol started coming out on logo items, towels and mugs and things like that. And somebody said, "Hey, I would really like to have the symbol, but I would love to have the hashtag." And so I was contacted by one of the folks at Team Naturist and said, "Would you be willing to partner with us?" And having been through the whole experience of the contest and realizing that this could be a real benefit to, have a symbol, I agreed, because if it was not something I could be 100% with, I won't do it. I'm either all in or I'm out. And so I thought this is something that I can stand behind. And it took off then, because then they started in the stores putting the hashtag. So this is exactly the point of why I wanted to use the hashtag, because when people are out there and they see somebody with that water bottle that says, "I'm the face of naturism," they're seeing a naturist. They're seeing somebody and they're saying, "Hey, they look like me. that, maybe this is something that I could think about. It's something that a conversation could be started about. So this is exactly what I wanted with the whole hashtag.
In a way, it's the opposite of the symbol because the symbol is subtle, and if you don't know, you don't know. But there's no question that the hashtag you are putting it out there.
That's true. And you can get the logo items with just the naturist symbol on it for people that want to be a little more discreet. But for people that want to say, hey, I'm proud, I am, willing to answer questions. If you look at me and you see that, you know that I'm a naturist. So it's for the people that are a little more confident, that are willing to have more of a conversation with people.
So where do you want to see this go from here?
Well, actually, I'm actually on a committee with the Naturist promotion for the symbol, and we are talking to people, federations, organizations, hotels, different places, and saying, "Would you like to partner with us? Because if you had this, little sticker in your window, and or if you have it on your website, and a naturist sees that, they're going to say, "Hey, this is great. I would like to go there." You embrace, probably the same thing I do. So we're starting to see some real traction globally. And the store, people can sell anything that they would want for the logo items. So we're seeing stores pop up with labels. I love the tattoos.
Hmm.
I have seen people with the tattoos, and that's a commitment. I must say that's a commitment. So
Oh,
I'm
a
really seeing
real, not a
some
temporary tattoo, an actual permanent tattoo.
an actual permanent tattoo. So
Wow.
it's like, wow, I admit I haven't gotten there. I'm willing to stand behind my banner and use my aluminum water bottle, but a tattoo, that's a lifetime commitment. So we're seeing people that are really committed to this project.
So when I was in France, I was walking down a street and there was a massage parlor. I say massage in quotes, if you could see me do air quotes, because it was clearly a rub and tug, and it was a picture of a woman kind of lounging and looking at you with a very, seductive look on her face. And it said in French, massage naturiste, naturist massage. Because the problem is when something is become adopted widely, like the term naturist, to a lot of people, it just means people will run around nude and then they misuse it. So is there any way to prevent that from happening with a symbol, that it doesn't become the symbol for, I don't know, a rub and tug parlor?
That is a good question. And I would hope that they would not want to use it, because the people that, if they saw that and that happened, I guarantee you there'd be some uproar, because that's not what they went in there for. And if they had the symbol, they're kind of misleading people, and they're going to get the wrong kind of people that would want to go in there. And so we haven't seen anything that's been highly embarrassing, or anything that we'd say, hey, I think, we need to have a little conversation. So far, there hasn't been any negative usage of it that we're aware of.
Okay. It's something I would encourage your committee to think about, because, and I don't know the answer, but for 100 years the term has been misused. When we first won the right to publish magazines with nude images, then the people who wanted to publish basically soft porn magazines started calling them nudists or naturists, because by putting that word on it, it was a euphemism for what it really was. It wasn't what it was, but it allowed them to, it gave them a cloak of legitimacy that kept the authorities away. So whatever we do seems to get adopted by the people who actually want to do the opposite of what we do. They're not trying to desexualize. They're actually trying to hypersexualize, and they're commodifying our bodies and selling them as objects. And I find it a very frustrating battle that somebody asked me the other day, will we ever win? And I'm not sure we will, and I don't know how.
Well, I agree. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, probably on social media, that somebody that's, an account that's more, geared to porn or sexualizing things, it's probably, they're going to probably use it to try to grab, the naturists. And I don't really know if there is anything that we can do at that point, but I'm really hoping they don't, because I'd like to see that divide between, have the porn people stay in one place and the nudists and the naturists stay separately.
Yeah, well, I agree, and there's no advantage certainly for us for people to be confused. It's quite the opposite. I suppose it's a design that has a copyright by default, but every country has different laws, and having a copyright is only meaningful if you can afford to defend it, and that's can be challenging. So.
Absolutely.
So on that note, what is the copyright? Can anybody use it? Can anybody use it any way they want? I mean, you don't want them to use it the wrong way, but if somebody wants to print a mug or put a big poster, what are the rules?
It's currently on what's called a Creative Commons for usage. And so you can actually use the symbol. You can change the colors. You could change a little bit. We've seen, some different alliterations of it. We've seen it in black. We've seen it in different colors. For the tattoos, it seems like they're more orange, looks better than the yellow. It seems like it's too light. And so it actually can be used in any way that you would like. But they just ask that you credit the person that actually, the genesis of it, which is Jacob Braun.
Oh, that's good. But how do you do that on your tattoo?
Yeah, that's a good one. I agree. Who is this Jacob character, and why is he, on my tattoo?
That's right. Is that your boyfriend?
That could be a problem.
Yes, exactly. Yes, good. So and for you, Linda Weber, what is the future? What do you want to do next?
Oh my goodness. Well, I am really excited to be on social media because I've been able to reach people and be able to really get my message out. And I'm starting to get a little more global recognition, which is great. I've been working with Dinah Price, who is she's my mentor for British naturism, and we both have the same ideas and what we would like to do with women, because I mostly would like to get women in. I'm glad to talk to anybody about getting into nudism or naturism, but I really would like an emphasis on women because there's such, we just really need women in here. And so I'm writing more. And so this is really exciting because now I'm getting my message out more to a global. And the great thing is it doesn't matter that I'm here in the US. I can get on a Zoom or be on social media and I can talk to people all over the world. So it doesn't mean that I have to physically be there, which is wonderful. So my message gets out, and that's what I really want to do.
Yeah, the international aspect is interesting, isn't it? When I launched this podcast, I was just thinking it was kind of a fun idea. I can have my own radio show, and now people listen all over the world. And we actually, there was a couple that was from New Zealand, which is about as far physically as you can get from where I am in Toronto or near Toronto, without leaving the planet. And they were in New York City for, I think it was a business trip or a conference, but they wanted to visit Bear Oaks. So they got on a bus. It's like a 12-hour bus ride just so they could come for a weekend to experience Bear Oaks. I mean, that's very flattering, but it was because they've been listening to the podcast. So yeah, you can definitely have a big influence, not just locally, but internationally with social media. So I very much encourage you to do that.
Well, you can see obviously the wonderful reach that your show has, because people wanted to get on that bus and come see you. And where would they normally, know about this? And the one great thing about when I was traveling is I mentioned I was going to be in Australia, and I had all these people from Australia saying, "Hey, can you visit my club? We'd love to have you." I found out about Maslin Beach, which is a fabulous nude beach. Places that I didn't really know about that weren't on my radar. And so they were so excited to be able to share, what they had, with somebody that was coming over. So the fact that it's a global reach is so exciting to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I'm glad you're doing it. We definitely want to keep working on attracting women. I can tell you it is very doable because we have no problems attracting women here at Bear Oaks. But there needs to be, in a lot of clubs and places I've visited, an attitude change and a better understanding of what it's like to be a woman and have spent all your life being objectified. And so there's a lot of clubs that say they're naturists or nudists that don't seem to understand that. You must have seen that too.
It is interesting because the first thing, it's just not like saying, "Hey, I'm a woman, I'd like to go to a club." First of all, you have to go through all the societal things that, make it sound that's what I wrote in my article for H&E Naturist magazine for the July 2021 issue, is before women can even decide that, "Hey, I'd like to go to that club," they have to make peace with their body and decide, okay, I'm gonna, go in there, and I don't care that, my hair doesn't look good, or I've got a little extra weight on my hips and all this stuff like that, and people might look at me, but for the most part, people aren't looking. They're just looking up to see who is coming in. But I admit, it can be very daunting for a woman to go into a club and have all the men, just looking at her, because it is kind of an anomaly when you do get a single woman in there.
So how do you convince them?
You know, I tell them my story. I tell them that I had the same things that you did. When I first walked onto that beach, when I was at Bates Beach, there was already kind of a little core group. They were all men. And I could have turned and run, because I admit I was just a little bit nervous because they were all men and there was no women. But I turned it around and I said, "Hey, I get all these men to myself. This is great." They all burst out laughing and they said, "We are so glad you feel that way, because when we saw you walking up, we were actually betting on how quick it was going to be before you turned around and took off." So I try to tell my story that I've done it. It can be done. I'm an introvert. It is kind of scary. And sometimes I still get, a little nervous in crowds. But once you feel confident about your body and you make peace with it, you're going in with a completely different mindset. If you go in with failure, you're going to fail. But if you go in and say, "I am the queen of this pool and I'm going to own it," you're going to feel like you are, and it's going to come across.
Oh, that's great. Well, and hopefully with the example that you and others set and the hashtag that shows that you were just your typical naturist, and hopefully with the symbol, which they might recognize as meaning acceptance, and hopefully it continues to mean acceptance and it doesn't get used, that those things will help, don't you think?
Absolutely. Anything that could unify or show that, we're just like everybody else. We just like to do, things without our clothes off, non-sexual, wholesome things. But I think we need to unify ourselves and show people how wonderful it is, because that's the biggest barrier. Is if you can get past that conversation, then you basically can maybe, convince somebody.
So here's your chance to talk to people who are listening right now who they don't like the symbol or they don't want to use it. What do you want to say to them?
I love the symbol, and I know that there are people that don't particularly like that are detractors. It would be interesting to see why you don't like it. Is it because you think that it's too simple? Do you think that there is a message that you can't ascribe to? What does it do to you that makes you not want to use it? Do you feel that it would unfairly identify you or put you into a category that you don't want? It's really getting down to what the reasoning is. And if you just don't like it, that's fine. We're not gonna get 100% participation, but it would be nice if people just gave it a chance.
So people have asked me whether I like the naturist symbol. And that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, I like the look. It's a very nicely designed logo, and it has some nice elements. And there was a lot of discussion that went into it for the folks who were involved. But I think it's a valid criticism that some people have raised that it happened fairly quickly in a matter of a few months and only involved those who were aware of the contest or project and proposed something. And a symbol is not something you can easily pick. And in order for it to be effective, it has to be accepted by everyone. Some people are not accepting this symbol. There are other symbols as well. There have been symbols for a long time. Of course, there are the symbols or the logos of the federations, which are often used as naturist symbols to represent it because they are supposed to represent your naturism within your country. There is a very stylized sort of family iconography icon with waves underneath it that's been used in some places on official signs because they have little bumps, so you know they're naked to indicate there's a nude beach or naturist resort nearby. Not long ago, in 2018, people made a flag in Alaska, and they try to promote it as a naturist symbol. They meant it to be a flag. It's supposed to be like the diver's flag, and I'll put a link in the show notes if you're interested in seeing that one. And it's basically like a diver's flag, which if you've seen it, it's the diver's has a diagonal line in two colors, and in the case of the naturist symbol, it's blue and yellow as the colors, which seem to be also the colors of the naturist symbol. Because sun and water seem to be key to that. Although naturism isn't always practiced where there's water. Sometimes it can be practiced indoors as well. Not everybody has access to oceans or even lakes. So it depends what you can do. If you're in a city, I suppose it might be a pool. There's no question that swimming is a big part of what people like to do as naturists. So anyway, there's a number of symbols. The key, though, to acceptance of any symbol is everybody getting on board with it. And so certainly Linda and others are doing a great job of promoting it and letting people know that it exists. But I think until the organizations get behind it, it would be difficult for it to get true universal adoption. And I'm finding mostly the awareness is in the English language world, of course, because that's where the debate and the creation happened. So that's the challenge. The challenge is, we can criticize the federations, the international naturist federations, any of those organized groups. It's a thankless job working for those groups because you know that whatever you do, somebody's not going to like it, and you will be criticized. And most of these folks believe they're doing the right thing. You may not agree, or others may not agree, and that's fair. But there's a lot of people who criticize and don't get involved. It's important to have organized naturism. It's important to have organizations because that's truly the only way to represent a movement to governments to come together and have agreement on things. So, and I won't keep going through that because I've done other shows which you can go find and on various federations and the importance of them. I believe in organizations, and I am with you if you think they're not doing it right. But I would encourage you, if you think they're not doing it right, to get involved, because they're always looking to volunteer. And you'll notice in most organizations when there's an election, and I'm doing air quotes around the word, when there's an election, there's rarely any competition for the position because people were convinced to do it because there's always a shortage of people willing to step up and get involved in what can be tedious at times. Democracy is tedious. It is not efficient, but it's the only way that people can feel that they've had a say, and it's the only way that we can reach a consensus and work together, like it or not. So I didn't answer whether I think the naturist symbol is right or not because I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that up to you. And with that, it will be all for this episode of the Naturist Living Show. So thank you, as always, for listening. Again, my name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I'm your host for this podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. I make the show with lots of help from Samantha Graham, who produces the show and makes the task so much easier for me by doing all the time-consuming editing. Please support us on Patreon if you can afford it. Just a few dollars a month helps make this possible and make it so that Samantha can keep doing this as part of her living, as part of her job. To do it, you simply go to patreon.com/naturistlivingshow, one word. And remember, the money is not for me. It's to keep Samantha going and to pay for some of the expenses of the show. So I'm doing this because I volunteer, because I believe. And I already have other resources supporting me. So this is just to keep the show viable. So thank you for those who are supporting it. And thank you if you're even thinking about doing it. It's really appreciated. Also, keep sending your comments and suggestions. We really appreciate getting them. We read them all, but we don't always have time to reply. And the show's email address is contact@naturistlivingshow.com, which is also where you will find notes on that I've mentioned about, references to some of the things we talked about in the show on the website, which is naturistlivingshow.com. I hope you enjoyed the show and that you'll join us again for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bareoaks.ca.
Am I in your left ear or right ear?
You're in my left ear, and this is the right ear.
Left, left, left.
Yeah, and I'll start the audio now.